And welcome to Raising the Standards. Jacoby with you with my co-host Bill Wolverton. Hello, Bill.
Howdy do.
How are you?
I'm grand. How are you?
I'm good. Did you buy your tickets to the Kennedy Trump Center? They won't work anymore. You heard what happened.
What happened?
Oh, a federal judge ruled you cannot do that and have your name on the Kennedy Center.
I did hear about that.
That
That's
deal
right.
was in perpetuity, and it's up to Congress. And in his way, he said, I don't care. I don't want to do it. Let Congress handle it. Besides, he can be on the $250 bill, which we'll be able to see every time we fill up with gas.
That concerns me. When inflation runs away, you get rid of the tiny denominations and you add bigger ones.
Exactly it.
And we've done both of those things now.
Oh, there was a marvelous thing that I saw on Germany coming out of World War I, the inflation.
Yeah.
And it would actually, as you were buying a cup of coffee, it would go up the price. You'd have to come back to the table, and you would have to have 1,000,000 marks or something.
Sure, then they push wheelbarrows of cash around.
With cash.
Yeah. It happened in Venezuela. It's happened to other places.
Unfortunately, I had to pawn my wheelbarrow, but good show today. We're going to talk with author James Gavin, who is a fabulous writer, and if you love jazz, you will love this gentleman's writing. He has written... among the people he has written about, as a matter of fact, I'm in the middle of this book. He sent me a Chet Baker story, but we're going to talk today about the book Cool Heat, Anita O'Day and Her Dangerous Jazz Life. With us on the line, James Gavin. Hello, James. How are you?
I'm much better now for being with you. Thank you for having me. Hi, Michael. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
You're very kind, and we had a little bit of a time glitch, and it worked out. He was available early, and we're delighted to be able to do that. I have to tell you, and I had told Bill this story a couple weeks ago, the way you contacted me, you were kind enough to send an email, said I'm a listener of the show, and maybe we could talk about these things. I said, oh, you don't need to say you're a listener. He goes, no, I really do, because it turns out he has a lot of friends who have been on the show, like Mark Christian Miller, who's a buddy of yours, right?
I stay in Mark Christian Miller's apartment when I visit Los Angeles often. And he urged me to get in touch with you, and happily you said yes.
Well, we are just delighted. And you know our friend Judy Wexler, right?
I do know Judy, not well, but I think the world.
Yeah, we had her on a couple weeks ago. She's a good friend of the show's.
He wrote a book on a woman my dad had an absolute crush on.
Edie Adams,
for a
long
time. Lena Horne.
Lena Horne, of course.
Yeah.
Lena Horne, who was described by Orson Welles as the most beautiful woman on the planet.
My dad would probably agree.
Yeah. Talk about...
I met her.
Did you really?
I had my time with Anita. Before the introduction of my book tells of how when Anita the year was 1993, and she was on the verge of her final reemergence, after which she was never seen publicly again. But Anita had recorded a new album for Blue Note Records. She was about to play 2 concerts at Carnegie Hall, and she was back, and I was writing a lot of features for the New York Times Arts and Leisure section in those days. And I approached them about doing Lena, and they said yes. And I subsequently had 2.5 hours alone in a New York hotel room with Lena Horne.
Oh, he is going to be so envious of you when I tell him this story.
How wonderful. We had done Stormy Weather on Liner Notes a while ago from the film, which was a spectacular rendition of that, a spectacular performance. You live in New York, right, James?
I live on the Upper West Side of New York. I was born in New York. I'm proud to say.
Yes. Did you go to Lena's funeral?
Sadly, I did not. Yeah. But I saw her last public appearance.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, and almost all the New York area appearances that she made throughout the 1990s, I saw, and I will always regard the time I spent with her as the greatest interview experience of my life. I had grown up on Lena Horne. I had seen all those MGM musicals as a kid. I had collected her records and been absolutely just seduced by her, mesmerized by her, as so many people did, because there was so much mystery surrounding Lena Horne. There were so many layers to peel away, and most of all, there was so much unrest beneath the surface. She had that icy facade in the 50s of places like the Waldorf Astoria, and underneath it, something told me that there was a lot of pain hidden away, and I had to get to the bottom of it, and that is what drove me to write that book.
Did good interview? Was she a good interview?
I will immodestly tell you that I read probably over 1,000 interviews that Lena Horne had done in her life, and in my immodest opinion, that is the best one she ever gave. And I'll tell you why. Because I was a kid at that time.
Yeah.
And Lena, let's see, I'm doing the math, would have been about 76 when I interviewed her. And I think she was startled when she saw this young guy who, for all she knew, had just been sent by the New York Times to interview her and didn't know very much about her. But she very quickly learned that I did. And she told me, this is a quote, "I don't talk to people very often. So when I'm with someone like you, I talk too much."
Yeah, that's neat.
I get goosebumps when I think of that moment.
I have to tell you, having done a lot of interviews over the years, and you have you have hopes, you have expectations, which don't always work out. I met Sinatra. I didn't interview him. I met him and chatted for a couple of minutes. But I did an interview with Sammy Davis once, who couldn't have been nicer. And I've told this story, Bill, on the air before. One of my mentors in radio that owned KRML, Alan Schultz, who was with Monterey Jazz for years, interviewed Ella Fitzgerald when he was in L.A. And Ella was wearing this wonderful Rolex watch. And the interview was kind of going, it was a bit of a tough sledding. And finally he said, "Boy, that's a beautiful watch, Ella. There must be a great story behind it." And she said, "No." I said, "Yep, there's the flop sweat."
But Sinatra, you had 2 minutes with Sinatra. That's 2 minutes more than I ever got.
Well, my wife's uncle was Norman Paris, who used to play for him at the Copa.
Wait, Norman Paris, the piano?
Yeah, the piano player, and her aunt was Dorothy Loudon, who from of course Annie.
Whoa. Tell me that again. What is the relation between you and Norman?
It's my wife's uncle.
Well, that astounds me because my first book was called Intimate Nights, The Golden Age of New York Cabaret, and Norman Paris is prominent in that book.
Send me a copy. I will give it to my wife. That is wonderful.
Oh, I'll happily do that.
Yeah. No, and I'll tell you real quickly the story. We were at Harrah's, and we used to fly up to Tahoe 3 or 4 times a year to see Sinatra. And in those days, Harrah's they changed the format every week. Then one day it's the Lookout Lounge, the next day it's a Baccarat deal, and then so we're sitting there, and Sinatra's sitting in the corner with Pat Henry and a couple of bodyguards. And I wrote a note on a napkin that said, "Would it be all right if Norman Paris's niece came over to say hello?" And I said, "Don't give it to him, give it to one of the bodyguards." So she gives the bodyguard, and this guy had to be 7 feet tall, started walking toward us. And I, oh, God. And he said, "That is so nice of you not to interrupt. Come with me." Took us over, introduced us, and Frank looked at my wife and said, "Well, you're a cute little thing." And, my wife says, "Here's the room key. Let's lose this guy." And... and I've interviewed a lot of people, and I'm just nice shoes, Frank. I really wanted to ask him why he introduced Jack Kennedy to Giancana's girlfriend, but I probably would have ended up in a trunk. But it was nice.
Wait, you mean Phyllis McGuire?
What's
that girlfriend?
No, the girlfriend, Sam Giancana's girlfriend, which was...
Yeah, that was Phyllis McGuire.
But who was the other one that slept with Jack Kennedy? Janet, I can't think of her name. Something more, but she was, But it's like you could guess with Jack, it was pretty much you're safe if you were with the right one. Judith Exner is her name. That's who it is. Judith Exner.
That one.
So we were talking about Ella, right? That is, I think, isn't that you wrote the liner notes for her box set, and for that you were nominated for a Grammy? Is that right?
I was. That was way back in the mid '90s, and I was at the Grammys to lose, sadly. And while Grammy nominated will forever be the prefix to my name,
And the beginning of your obituary.
and I kind of hate the Grammys and everything they stand for, but I would virtually kill to get one. Maybe there's still hope.
Yeah, and I'm throwing everything out of left field today, and we've got time. Who was the great liner note writer that did all the Sinatra stuff?
Oh, that was Stan Cornick.
Stan Cornick. He was amazing.
Really?
Oh, Lord, I
Very
used to just...
stylish, right?
And
Yeah.
that's the sad thing about CDs is you don't really get that. The albums, they were just great with them. Well, first of all, somebody my age, I could actually read the type. But those were wonderfully written. Talk about, and we're going to certainly talk about Oneida O'Day in a minute, but talk about the other books you've written. You've done the Chet Baker, you've done Lena Horne, who else?
Chet Baker, in order: Intimate Nights, The Golden Age of Cabaret, Deep in a Dream, The Long Night of Chet Baker. I love these colon-separated titles. Stormy Weather, The Life of Lena Horne, George Michael, A Life,
Ooh.
and now Cool Heat, The Dangerous Jazz Life of Oneida O'Day. And the one I'm doing now, not to get too ahead of my story, but I'm doing Doris Day now.
Really? The Doris
Isn't
Day,
that
of
nice?
course, is well known in this area, and who lived in Carmel and was very big with the Humane Society. As a matter of fact, I have played golf a lot at Quail Lodge, and up above one of the tees, way up the
Yeah.
cliff, is Doris Day's home.
There was a veranda where she would stand and wave as on
Yeah.
her birthday,
Right.
and throngs of people gathered below, hoping for a glimpse of Doris Day.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to meet her?
Oh, sadly, no. I see. I grew up with a framed photograph of Doris Day by my bedside. This has been a lifelong dream of mine, and I have finally found a way to make it happen. And I think that Doris is a Sinatra-level interpreter of song, and there again we have a story that is much, much more than the surface would imply. So much darkness, so much mystery.
Oh, and from marital woes to was it her husband and manager? Were they the same that lost all that money for her and absconded with it?
Marty Melcher, who was her third husband, had for many, many years been business partners with an attorney who was shady, to put it mildly. And he had blown her entire vast 7-figure fortune, and I don't mean $2 million, on very shady business investments and also skimming.
Yeah.
And so Doris was left with almost nothing at the end, and successfully sued him, but he is one of the legendary ogres in showbiz history on the legal side.
And she was such a sweet woman, and her relationship with Rock Hudson during the end of his life, I found to just be lovely.
Absolutely. She was a very sweet woman. She was sad in many ways and disappointed. And when you hear her sing, there is so much more going on than sweetness.
Yeah.
Sweetness is there, but underneath it is an incredible strain of hurt. And that is what I always, again, responded to in her singing. And that generally is what drew me in and draws me into a singer or an instrumentalist. And in the case of Oneida O'Day, who was the queen of what used to be called the cool school of jazz singers, cool, this is very much true of Chet Baker as well, cool only works if there's something sizzling underneath. If cool is just cool, that's absolute detachment. It doesn't draw you in. But if cool is a camouflage for mystery and darkness, that is really interesting, and oh boy, did she have it.
That is a great explanation.
It is, and you think of that style very much like Julie London or who else? Chris or O'Connor.
Chris Connor. Yeah. There were lots of girls who tried to emulate Oneida O'Day, as there were a lot of women who emulated Lena Horne back in the day, Leslie Uggams and Diane Carroll. But as Lena used to say, she resented that, by the way, but she would say, when asked about those women, she'd say, well, they don't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And what she was thinking is the key to everything, because that's what is percolating underneath the surface.
Well,
and that's what gets your imagination going without you even being able to put your finger on what it is.
as Emerson said, imitation is suicide.
Thank you. I don't like imitative art.
I'm going to put Doris Day back on the burner for another day, and we certainly expect you, when the book's ready, to get back on the air with us.
I would be honored.
That having been said, give us a little, you want to talk about demons. Anita O'Day certainly had them. That really caught up when they were long run with heroin abuse, but a remarkable talent, and we will, at the end of this interview, which won't be for a few minutes, we're going to play perhaps, arguably, her most famous recording at Newport Jazz Festival of Sweet Georgia Brown. Tell me more about her. Kind of give me a timeline when she was really at her peak.
She was born in Chicago in 1919. Very turbulent, painful childhood. She was made to feel unwanted, couldn't wait to get out of that house, discovered jazz, and discovered that she had a talent for singing. She also had a colossal iron will. Anita was around in the days of the dance-a-thons and walk-a-thons, the kind that were depicted in They Shoot Horses,
right.
Don't They? She was never a champion, but she came close. And for the rest of her life, she used that as a metaphor for singing. She compared it to a sporting contest where you are racing down the lane trying to get to number one, and you will not get to number one probably, but you will die trying. So then the big band era came along, and she sang with a variety of big bands, most famously Stan Kenton and Gene Krupa. Had hits with both of them. And Anita was so much more interesting than the variety of chirps who were pretty girls who were there to add softness and femininity to the stage when there was a stage full of guys. Anita was one of the men. She had a toughness to her. She had this marvelous, droll, ironic sense of humor. She was a loose cannon. And bebop was around the corner. And that immediately caught Anita's ear because it was a challenge. It was learning a new musical language that she was determined to master. And master it she did, but she also fell in with what many, if not most, of the bebop musicians of the day thought was essential to that kind of manic creativity, and that was heroin.
Which meant she knew Bird.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she knew them all.
Yeah.
And she was a heroin addict for 13 absolutely wild years. And it was in the heart of that period that she made her most famous appearance, which was at the 1958 Newport Jazz Festival that was filmed for the great documentary Jazz on a Summer's Day.
One of the things, James, that I hope folks love about this show, and Bill puts up with, is our flow of consciousness, and that we jump in and out of things. But
James.
You having brought up They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And who winning an Academy Award for his role in that film was Gig Young. Stay with me. And do you know that Gig Young originally was hired by Mel Brooks to play the Waco Kid, Gene Wilder's role in Blazing Saddles?
I didn't know that, but I wish he'd done it.
Well, he came in drunk every day, and they finally had to fire him, and that's how Wilder got the.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how he's. So remember, he's hanging upside down. Gig says, "I can't do this."
Doris Day made a bunch of movies with Gig Young. She loved him. He was on his best behavior in those films, but it all went swirling down the drain, didn't it?
So we're talking that in the late 50s, when she was into the bebop era, and then she came out. She became. She did some pop stuff, right?
Well, when she was in her early period of recording under Norman Granz,
Right.
the owner of Clef Verve and Norgran and Verve, which was all collected in a big box set on Mosaic Records. It is one of the Bibles of jazz singing because it was all new. Anita, there was nobody you could even compare Anita with before Anita came along. She was a true pioneer. And yes, they fed her dumb songs from time to time. I'm not saying Tennessee Waltz is a dumb song, but for Anita O'Day, it was a silly trifle. And Anita translated everything they gave her into jazz. It was the language she spoke and the language she lived. Very important point there because Anita epitomized what used to be called the jazz life, which was filled with risk and danger and making up your life every waking hour. That's very much tied in with addiction, by the way, because that's the way heroin addicts had to live.
Well, and she fought with sobriety, obviously, like many of us do. But she had a recurrence or resurrection, if you will, in Japan. I mean, she became very big over there.
Absolutely. She went many times to Japan because they have this reverence for mostly American jazz artists, and they love girl singers, and they love cool jazz singers, and they also love hot jazz singers. But Anita, being in a foreign country, you can't get high in those places because it might be dangerous.
Yeah.
And so Anita was hardly sober for a day in her life. She became a pothead in her teens. She switched to alcohol and then moved over to heroin because heroin and alcohol don't mix. She got off of heroin. The doctor who helped her get off of heroin prescribed codeine cough syrup, which she used almost until the end of her life. In the interim period, she was also returned to alcohol and always smoked pot. So the woman was hardly sober for a day in her life.
Yeah. And there's the famous interview on the Today Show where she was...
Oh, my God. You mean with Bryant Gumbel?
Right, with Bryant.
Containing the legendary line, just for so the listeners know what we're talking about, and it is on YouTube. I recommend it highly. Bryant Gumbel was needling Anita about all the down and dirty stuff in her book. He was in a lousy mood. She felt like he was prodding her, and when he wouldn't let up, she glared daggers at him, and she says, "That's just the way it went down, Brian."
I will tell you, James, my favorite Bryant Gumbel story. Branford Marsalis is a friend of mine, and we play golf. And I reminded him the first time I met him of this story. He was on the Today Show with Bryant, and in the middle of the interview, Bryant says, "How's Winton?" And Branford goes, "Good. How's Greg?" Which is Brian's brother, which I thought was a classic response.
Harsh.
Great. I love it. I had my time with Anita, too. I was in her company about 25 times, starting in the late 80s. And I interviewed her for the New York Times in 1999 when she was on the cusp of her last big comeback. And at that time, I got her at the tail end of when she was talking like a chatterbox. No amount of anesthesia in the form of alcohol and drugs could stop her from speeding like an out-of-control freight train. And so that was published in, again, 99 in the Times, and that turned out to be the core of the book that is about to come out from Equinox.
I was just going to ask you, when is the book coming out?
The book was supposed to come out on June the 1st. They've moved it back a week or so, but it's been up on Amazon for pre-order, and I do hope a couple of your listeners will check it out. It's a real fast, breezy ride because Anita's life moves very fast. This book is about 225 madcap pages long, and I promise your readers a wild ride.
Well, I know it'll be a marvelous book, and as I say, as I'm in the middle of the Chet Baker book, I love your work, and I'm so delighted that we got in touch with each other. And be self-serving. I do look forward to that Cabaret book.
I'll send it to you, and may I thank you and Bill for creating a home for meaningful conversation on the air, because they don't grow on trees these days. And for me to be able to talk like this with both of you on the air about good stuff is really marvelous, and I cannot thank you enough.
Well, you're very kind to say that, and as Bill and I feel that a podcast is nothing but a conversation with headphones. But
Exactly. Well, let me take advantage of it to ask you two guys who know so much more about music and musicians than I do. When I hear stories like you just told about how this woman was hardly sober a day in her life, and that occurs frequently with stories of the people in this industry, it makes me profoundly sad. Yeah. But do you guys just see that is part of this industry and this business?
Oh,
You
go
first.
ahead. No, I was just going to say, James, it is getting, and I'm like a C-level celebrity over the years, but getting up and putting all your energy into an hour a day, there's a letdown that's quite extraordinary, and you've got to deal with it somehow. And I think that's part of the problem. Certainly the problem with some of the great jazz players. And there was, there was a time when, cocaine wasn't bad for you and heroin, everybody else would do was okay. Yeah. But I think there's an extraordinary pressure, and see if you agree, James, extraordinary pressure to be incredibly focused at a point in the day for like an hour and a half. Most people don't go through that. Do you agree with that, James?
I couldn't have said it better. I have never said it better than you just said it, as a matter of fact. But all of it went into, Bill, getting back to your question about how necessary was this in the spectrum of jazz. And the jazz that makes my hair stand on end is born out of great risk-taking and danger and, frankly, darkness.
Yeah.
When I listen to almost any of the musicians that I love the most, God knows Chet Baker had it, I hear a lot of turbulence, and I hear them, these musicians and singers, kind of wending their way through the dark, trying to make a statement in the midst of sometimes terrible struggle and inner turmoil. And that is the kind of, I'm not saying that all great jazz comes out of that, but it does seem to be a through line of the struggle, that too, of the era of jazz that I love the most. And it does pop up every now and again today. However, I find jazz today to be a much safer, more scholarly endeavor than it used to be. And the results can sometimes sound more academic than hair-raising, in my opinion.
Huh. Oh, I appreciate your perspective.
The book is Cool Heat, Anita. Oh, no, colon, because apparently you own rights to colons. I have the exclamation point. Do you have the comma? But he's got the, anyway.
No, I have the question mark, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've never known why. Her Dangerous Jazz Life, coming out any day now, and check it out. I leave you with a heartfelt thanks, my friend, and the words of to sum up Anita O'Day, and we're going to go from here to 1958 Newport. Will Friedwald once said, "When you think of the great jazz singers, I would think that Anita is the only white woman that belongs in the same breath as Ella, Billy, and Sarah."
I do not disagree with that, but when Anita liked to keep that question mark you just mentioned, Bill, she liked to keep that in the forefront. And so when asked by, was it Bryant or was it Judy Licht on local New York news, who was prodding her about why she got into drugs, and she said, it was the thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
She would not give you any further clues than that.
Absolutely.
To find out the real answer to that, just read my book.
Absolutely. James Gavin, thank you, my friend.
I've enjoyed it enormously.
Take care, and here's a little bit of Anita O'Day, Newport Jazz Festival, 1958. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
round. Two left feet, but oh, so neat. Sweet Georgia Brown. They'll sign I wanna die for sweet Georgia Brown. I'll tell you why. You know I don't lie much. It's been said she knocks 'em dead when she lands in town. Said she came, why it's a shame how she comes 'em down. Fellas, she can't get. Our fellas, she ain't match. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her, sweet Georgia brother. No, got fade, got shade on. Georgia Brown. Two left feet up for me. Georgia Brown. They all say wanna die for sweet Georgia Brown. I'll tell you just why. You know I don't lie. Not much. It's been said she knocks 'em dead when she lands in town. Since she came, it's a shame how she cools 'em down. Fellas, she can't get our fellas. This gal has never met. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her, sweet Georgia Brown. No gal made shade, sweet Georgia Brown. To left feet, but I thought some needed sweet Georgia Brown. They all sign one die for sweet Georgia Brown. Tell you just why. No, I don't lie much since she came. Well, it's a shame how she cools 'em down. It's been said she knocks 'em dead when she lands in town. She can't get out. This gal has never met. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her, sweet Georgia Brown.
Anita O'Day. Whoa, that is special.
I like that.
Yeah, she is. I'd love to go to Newport Jazz sometime. You
Yeah.
know, Newport Jazz Festival is what it used to be. They used to do the Newport Folk Festival too. That's where Dylan played the electric guitar, and that was the big controversy.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't plug that in. Anyway, thanks to James Gavin for a wonderful interview, and
It was. I
Certainly-
know we're doing something else, but I want
Yeah.
to make one brief
Sure,
observation
please
on
do.
the very different answers you two guys gave to my question. I drew two different conclusions. With his, talking about, well, I saw it as a two-way street. It's not just getting into the jazz music that led to the drug abuse. It was the struggle and the strife and the great emotions that caused people to go to drugs, equipped them to have what they needed to create the music with the emotion behind it.
I think there's another thing that incredible insecurity is that sometimes if you do something you're naturally good at, it's very embarrassing that people like it because you're not really you're not working at it.
I think I follow.
Yeah, and so I mean,
I
get paid to do what I would do if I weren't being paid.
Sure.
So I go, wow. Yeah.
I drew a different conclusion from your answer, and that was when you're so focused and you pour everything into 60 or 90 minutes, maybe the actual act of performing in front of people, doing it that hard, that fast, has a similar reaction to doing drugs with the endorphins that kick in during that and such. And so maybe part of the reason they use it is because that's missing the rest of the time. I mean, when they're not performing.
You look at ex-athletes that get caught up in that whole thing. It's got to be a very, very difficult transition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's do liner notes. Today, a Harry Warren and Al Dubin tune from the 1934 film Moulin Rouge by one of the great voices in jazz, Billy Eckstine. Lila Hampton called him one of the greatest singers of all time. Duke Ellington described Eckstine as a remarkable artist, and Sammy Davis was a pallbearer at his funeral. Musician, band leader, vocalist, and jazz icon, Eckstine had a profound impact on the industry. He was an inspiration to no less than Johnny Hartman, Arthur Prysock, Joe Williams, and Lou Rawls, to name a few. The song, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, has special meaning to me. Tony Bennett sang it the last time I saw him at the age of 92, and as they say, he nailed it. I walk along the street of sorrow, the boulevard of broken dreams, where gigolos and gigolettes can take a kiss without regret, so they forget their broken dreams. In 1939, Eckstine joined Earl Hines' orchestra as a vocalist and trumpeter. 5 years later, he formed one of the truly great bands of the century. How great? Well, let's drop some names of band members. Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Art Blakey, Sarah Vaughan, Pearl Bailey, and Lena Horne. Not too shabby, huh? This is from 1960 on The Ed Sullivan Show. As always, I say check it out on Facebook so you can see the performance and enjoy the wonderful Billy Eckstine.
Nightly stars are shining brightly, straight are tripping lightly as the music plays. Gladness in the form of madness, overcoming sadness in a million ways. Oh, gay Paris, what have you done to me? I walk along the street of sorrow, a boulevard of broken dreams, where gigolo and gigolette can sing a song without regret, so they forget their broken dreams. You laugh tonight and cry tomorrow when you behold your shattered schemes. And gigolo and gigolette wake up to find their eyes are wet with tears to tell of broken dreams. Here is where you'll always find me, always walking up and down, for I left my soul behind me in an old cathedral town. The joys that you find here you borrow, you cannot keep it long, it seems, for gigolo and gigolette, they sing a song and dance along the boulevard of broken dreams.
Mario Lanza meets Don Cornelius.
One of the ways I like to enjoy music when we're doing this, and other times, is to sort of vicariously feel the pleasure of the people who make the comments. Because to some people, it just has profound meaning. It reminds them of a time in their life or a person. And both this one and the previous one, the one McCartney wrote, but tell me their names again, the duo.
Peter and Gordon. Yeah.
Peter and Gordon. When you looked at the comments for that, it just gave such joy to the people to hear that.
Yeah. And any tune that has the words gigolo and gigolette.
Yes.
I'm sold. I have never heard the word gigolette other than in that song.
No, he rhymed it about 5 different ways, I think.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Good show. Big thank you to James Gammon. What a good guy. And we'll get him back on when the new book on Doris Day comes out.
He was described as a ferocious pop biographer in one of the things I read. Yeah, ferocious.
Well, he's like, and it's been the last a couple of shows, I keep forgetting names, but the young man who wrote for Rolling Stone, who wrote the movie Almost Famous.
Yeah.
Do you remember the writer's name? He's
No.
a producer too. But he was like really young, and he comes off like he was probably 18 or in his early 20s talking to these people. So that must have been very interesting.
I have bad news.
What's that?
The forgetting names only gets worse. It doesn't get better.
But what was the question? That's why you own rights to the question mark.
That's why I have dibs on the question mark.
You have dibs on the question mark. I'm trying to find a punctuation symbol for vague. Anyway, that's it. The A train's on its way in. I am on my way out. Let me look down the track. I know it's coming.
I believe so.
There it is. It just got stopped at the light. As always, the show has been for Georgianne, for Mark, and for you. So until next time we all get together and once again raise the standards, I'm Jacoby. I'll see you soon.
should take
a train. You get to where you're going in a hurry. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Now it's coming. Can't you hear the rails go humming? If you should miss the